I am so excited today to be here with Leslie Ehm from the new book Swagger and Unleashing Everything You Are to Become Everything You Want. Leslie, hello, and thank you for being here at Red Cape Revolution.
Oh, it is my pleasure and a half, sister girl.
I think Leslie is another one of my superpower sisters. The new book Swagger is terrific. It's become a bestseller already, and it really focuses. One of the things that I was getting out of it is just really connecting more deeply to who I really am and not trying to put on, any kind of persona about who other people think that I should be or who I think other people think that I should be. So, Leslie, I would love to hear a little from you as to how did the whole swagger concept come about for you?
I was traveling the world with my training company called Combustion, and I was working in, countless countries and companies and cultures and working with people at all levels. And we were doing skills training. Now, Combustion has a very specific way of doing skills training. We're a very soulful, very irreverent, real people centric training company. And, I feel like a lot of companies are skills centric. We're very people centric. And it didn't seem to matter the subject matter that we were training, whether it was storytelling or presentation skills, communication, leadership, creativity. What I found was this fundamental human truth that kept surfacing itself over and over and over again. What I discovered was that people did not believe that they could reveal who they really were and still find the success that they were dreaming of. They didn't believe at their core that they were good enough to get what they wanted in this world and that they had to put on some external stuff to shroud and to hide what was real about them and to try and fake what they imagined the world wanted of them. And this is something I know to be fundamentally untrue. It is not true that the glossy, the shiny, the seemingly perfect, who are we kidding? There's no such thing, that is actually what works in this world, that's what brings you success. And when I discovered that, I started to layer that even more deeply on top of everything that I was doing. And when people would have these breakthrough moments, which happened a lot, because it's not a combustion workshop unless someone has cried or peed in their pants laughing. And I would say, there it is, there, I see you, that's your swagger, there
I
it
see
is.
you.
And everybody around, like all their colleagues and peers, would be freaking out. Oh my God, that was so much better. And that was so amazing. Or I've never seen you like that. Or I didn't know you had that in you, or all of these things. And you could see the reaction that the individuals had by taking that risk to, just to come out and play a little bit and getting so much love and appreciation for it. And if I had the opportunity to work with them multiple times, which a lot of our programs do, I would just keep pulling them all out, and they were doing it in groups together, so they were getting the reinforcement and the validation. And I watched this transformation of people, and I thought, oh my God, oh my God, okay, this is so magical, I have to clone myself. And then I realized I cannot clone myself. So my next thought was, okay, I want to write a book, but I don't just want to write a book that's, inspirational or motivational. I didn't want to do that. I mean, no shade to anybody who's written that kind of book. We need those in the world too. Wasn't for me. I come from a training background. I'm a hardcore. I want to get stuff done. I want things to be actionable and doable. So I said, two pieces of criteria. One, I have to make this book sound just like me, just like you're in the room with me, and it has to be the best friend version of Leslie who can hold your hand through the process and take you through it step by step in practical, pragmatic, doable, actionable ways. That's the whole Swagger story. And here we are today, bestseller,
Yeah,
baby.
I know. That's great. Yeah. And I love the fact that the book has very specific questions and exercises in it that you can go through. And I know you also have a supporting workbook that you can get to just be able to go deep on it. But let's go back a little bit, because when I first heard, the term swagger, um, it conjures up, some of the kind of arrogant, maybe let's say more maybe masculine, not to put any of our male
Machismo,
friends down, machismo.
be it
Yeah,
male or female,
yeah,
machismo.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. Kind of that, that arrogance over confidence piece.
Yeah.
But that's not the swagger you're talking about. You're not talking about being king of the hill on top of other people. Like, tell us more about what you really mean by finding your swagger, unleashing
Ye
your swagger.
Yeah, that show-offy, peacocky, in your face, arrogant swagger's old swagger, bad swagger. I
Mhm.
have redefined the word. My swagger is the ability to manifest who you really are and hold on to it in the face of all of that psychological crap that's going to come for it, regardless of the situation or environment. So it means you know who you are, you show up with one face, and you are not different regardless of who you're with your friends, you're with your boss, you're with your colleagues, you're with your kids. You're fundamentally the same person. You have one truth and you speak it. That is what swagger is.
Mhm. And it's a whole lot easier to remember who you are when you just have one truth, as opposed to trying to play
Right.
multiple roles, right?
No one has
Yeah.
time to keep track of that stuff. No one has
Right.
time. Like
Right.
who was I in that meeting? Who was I when I met that client? Oh my God, who was I with that man or that woman or that friend? Oh my God, oh my, you have to like keep a spreadsheet.
Right, right. Well, yeah, and I remember so distinctly. I had a friend in our 20s who, would date these guys, and she tried to be a certain way. And then after, 3 or 4 dates, they actually got to know her, and she's kind of uh, you know, a different person, not this little precious waif.
Uh-huh.
She's was a real woman. And then they didn't like it. And I'm like, we got to show up who we are. And,
Oh, listen, my mom, I had the best mother in the world. And I remember I was about I was about 14 years old, and it was back in the day. I don't want to say just how far back it's going to date me, but it's back in the day, and I was into the whole punk new wave scene, living
okay.
in Jewish suburban Montreal. So you can imagine the impact that I had on people as I walked around. The sides of my head were shaved. I had purple. It was kind of like a floppy mohawk, all that stuff. And it was shocking for people. And I was pretty much this person when I was 14. So you can imagine that combination of things was not giving me much 14-year-old boy action. They were not interested at all. And I remember coming home to my mother one day and crying to her and saying, "Oh, maybe I should just try and be like the other girls. And maybe I should just whatever." And she said, She said, "Leslie, you have to show up as exactly who you are from the first minute. Because if you pretend to be someone that you're not and a guy likes you, eventually he's going to figure out who you really are. And if he rejects you, then that's something. But if he just doesn't like you to begin with, who cares? What's the big deal?" And she said, "Besides, if a guy is too dumb to recognize what an amazing girl you are, what would you want to go with such a dumb guy for anyway?" Mom, mic drop. And you can extrapolate that out to your whole life. If a
Right.
boss is too dumb to recognize what an amazing contributor I am, what would I want to work with such a dumb boss for? If a company is too dumb to, like all of that stuff. So it's about understanding what you have and knowing that you are everything. You have everything that you want. The problem you might be having is that you don't know how to unleash it. It's not that you have to get more stuff. You just have to get your stuff out into the world through your swagger blockers. That's
Yeah,
it.
it's such a great point, and this is something that we talk about on the Red Cape Revolution all the time. It is that piece of, you have to first be clear about who you are, and to know what you want, because being in a situation that's not working for you, or it may not be the whole situation, but if you're not being honest about what it is you want, or the fact that, yeah, you want to keep working remote, or hey, you're ready to get back into the office, or or the bigger things, just
Or
about
you're
like
struggling, or
right,
you're not happy, or whatever the
right.
issues are.
You're right.
Yeah.
The work that worked for you 2 years ago, you've grown past it. You're not making the impact that you want to make. I mean, whatever those issues are, but being able to have better conversations about it. But you mentioned something, you talked about the swagger blocker. So let's talk about some of the stuff getting in the way. And the thing that comes up a lot is just the fear, which I know is one of your big blockers. So tell me a little bit about that.
Well, I want you to imagine that the real you is right in the middle. It's your core, your super center, as it were. And then there's all of this stuff that stops our swagger from getting out. Imagine it as a series of concentric rings that surround us that we have to navigate and negotiate through. So let's start from the outside because it's the closest to the world but furthest away from who we really are. And that's persona. That's the sense that we need to show up a certain way, walk, talk, dress, act a certain way in order to be liked, to be approved of, to be taken seriously, to be noticed, all of those things, all the stories we tell ourselves about how we're supposed to assimilate because we're looking to everybody else to figure out how, how should we walk and talk and dress and act. And that is going to keep people from not being able to see who we really are, and we get stuck in that over time. The next layer in is a little controversial one. It's ambition. Now, don't take me wrong. I'm all for ambition. I'm all for success. I'm all for going after what you want. But the problem with ambition is it has a way of changing us. If we're too stuck in ambition and we're using it as a source of validation, then we tend to focus upwards. What's the next rung of the ladder? If I can just get there, then I'm going to be good to go. Then I'm going to be good enough and all that kind of stuff. And the more you focus up, the less you focus in, the less you focus to the left and right to your colleagues and your peers, which is incredibly important. And most importantly, you stop focusing on your followers, because you cannot be a leader without followers. You cannot grow in your career without people being willing to lift you. So instead of getting trapped in that place of ambition, think about it in terms of being in your place of excellence. Just be a badass at what you do. Have generosity of spirit. Bring other people along. Share your wisdom, and believe you me, you will rise.
Yeah. And
So
that's a pressure that I know people feel sometimes because in our, let's call it a traditional organization, which a lot of our viewers are in traditional corporate organization, that there is kind of the language and the noise that says, of course you want up, even as the up layers get more sandwich and there really
yeah,
isn't that much of an up
yeah,
anymore. But it's what you're really saying is that it's more that getting through the barrier of more deeper into yourself and how you contribute and what you
yeah,
really bring to the table. What I call that, your superpower space too. It's like,
yeah.
what are you really doing?
If your swagger is getting blocked by ambition, it's going to change the way that you show up. It's going to reinforce all of that persona crap, right? It's going to make you be someone that you're not, which makes you less accessible, which makes you less trustworthy, which makes you less less connected with other people. All of the things that will help you to rise. And I think that if you are focusing on your place of excellence, you're just going to keep getting better and better and better. And if at some point the organization is not recognizing it, well, you have much more confidence, true confidence. If you do want to make a change, you're like, well, I've already been behaving like the leader that I aspire to be.
Right.
So I've been building my own skills. And if at some point I feel like I'm powerless in this, I know I have choices to make. I'm not kind of sitting like a puppy waiting for someone to give me something, or I'm not fighting with everyone to give me something. It's both of those things are not good. So that's our second swagger blocker. So now you have ambition reinforces the need for persona. Next layer in is insecurity. We all know what that one is like. And insecurity is brutal because it's all the place where all the unknowns live. It's the what ifs. What if I don't show up a certain way? What if I don't talk a certain way? What if I don't do this? What if people don't like me? What if people don't see me? What if? And there are no answers in insecurity. It's just your brain in the spin dryer.
The
It just
battle of the brain,
oh,
always battle the brain.
right? It just
Yeah.
goes over and over and over again. And the brain, as we know, the brain does not like uncertainty. The brain will choose the worst case scenario just to alleviate that sense of uncertainty. So it has a way of, if you're constantly asking all of these questions, am I good enough? Are people going to like me? What is it? Am I important? Your brain will answer, well, maybe not,
Right.
because you don't want to get above your station, or too big for your boots, or yes, maybe what everyone is saying is true, just to settle your brain down. It's torment, it's torture, and it's the place where the imposter syndrome lives. Insecurity is the worst thing ever. So insecurity reinforces ambition. That's the reason a lot of people become that single singularly focused upward, ambition type, because they're trying to quiet the insecurity
Because
in the
once I'm the vice president,
yeah.
then I'm worthy, then I'm good enough, or
And,
that's,
and
external
uh,
proof.
and by the way, the big secret is it doesn't work that way. The title does not alleviate insecurity. In fact, it just gets bigger because you get more freaked out that you're going to be found
Seriously,
out as
right?
being something that you're not. So it's just a really bad trap that you fall into. Okay, so the next layer in is fear. Because fear is the answer to the what ifs.
Mhm.
What if I don't walk and talk and behave and show up and do blah, 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 blah? Fear will say, bad things are going to happen. Really bad things.
I loved in the book, you used an example that I've used a time before, and I haven't heard it really said a lot of places, but it's I'm going to end up like living under a bridge, I'm
Yeah,
going to end up in a cardboard box. I mean, and moving so quickly to that place of the extreme fear.
yeah.
So, yeah.
Homeless on the street. That's usually when I work with clients and I say, okay, so let's talk through this thing that you're afraid of. I play a game called And Then What? And I get them to do it moment by moment by moment in this scenario. So I say, okay, explain to me where we are, what's happening, what's going on. I'm going and doing this big presentation in front of, the senior executive team. Okay, and then what happens? So I start my presentation and it's going okay, great. And then what? And then I start to lose my way a little bit, and I stumble and I fumble a few times. Okay, and then what? Well, and then somebody looks at somebody else, and then I get freaked out. Okay, and then what? And then they keep going and they say, and then people are that, and then people are looking at their phones and da da da. And if you carry that story through, oh no, they end up homeless on the street
Yeah.
as a result of that one scenario. And then I go, okay, good. Okay, great. Thank you for your story, for this fairy tale. Now, I want you to track back to the point in that story where it ceased to be realistic.
Mhm.
And they usually go, well, like, where is it? Where is it? Where is it? It's probably that they got the side eye.
Yeah.
That was probably the
Yeah. That
worst thing
someone
that
looks
can
down at their
happen.
phone, someone sneezes. Yeah.
That's the worst thing that can happen, because I think fear needs context. Your brain needs context, and you need to ask yourself, what is really the worst thing that can happen? And 9 times out of 10, it's so tiny that you just go, there are ways to work through it. So now you got fear, reinforcing insecurity, reinforcing ambition, reinforcing persona.
No wonder swagger's so hard.
Yeah,
No wonder we need your book,
yeah. It's a mountain that needs to be climbed, let me tell you.
Uh-huh.
And the last layer in is the big one. It's the castle gates, it's the proof, it's the scarred tissue, it's pain.
Mm.
Because pain is memory. Pain is proof. Pain is, oh, I tried that one time, did not go well. I do not want to put myself in that situation again. And that pain memory can be from when you were 10 years old.
Right.
It doesn't have to be a recent memory. It can be something that's picked up weight and picked up steam over the years, and it's completely gotten blown out of proportion. And like, if you did a presentation in grade school and your fly was down, or you had like a bat in the cave, and everyone laughed at you and made fun of you for 2 weeks after, you think you're going to feel all your bad self when you're standing up in front of people. No, you're not. You've got that memory is going to be very visceral and very real. We're so afraid of pain. It's like the worst thing. We would do anything to avoid pain. And unfortunately, we got to work through it in order to bring our swagger out into the world. So you imagine, that every time you want to speak your truth, every time you want to take a risk, anytime you want to be heard, your swagger has to navigate and negotiate its way through all of those layers like the freaking American Ninja Gauntlet. And it gets the crap kicked out of it by each of those layers. And then by some miracle, let's say your truth does get out into the world and somebody says to you, oh my God, Darcy, that the way you showed up in that meeting was incredible. I mean, what a contribution you made today. You're amazing. And here's what happens. That message now has to make its way back through all of those layers in order to reach the real you and fill you up. And it sounds something like this. Oh, I wonder if she just said that because she wanted to look good, like to make herself look good. Oh, I don't know. I mean, maybe she's just trying to like get me on her side or something. I'm just not. What if she doesn't mean it at all? What if she was actually being like sarcastic? God, I don't even know why I do this. Why do I do this? I do this every time. I put myself out there, and I get a beat down and I'm just next time I'm just gonna stay quiet because it's just not
Get
working.
out of my head, Leslie. It's
Right?
like I've been there. Yeah, I've been there. I'm sure a lot
We
of people
all
have.
have. We
Yeah.
all have.
Uh-huh.
So what we have to do is break them down one by one by one. You can't just take it on like a giant, smorgasbord that you're trying to, ingest. You have to take it piece by piece by piece and start working on it systematically and practically. Because then you can start to see the shifts. You'll start to see that when you do speak your truth, it doesn't get quite as snagged. It might still get snagged in a little bit of fear, but then you realize actually when the insecurity thing is starting to alleviate a little bit. Like I'm not second, third, fourth guessing every time. Wow, look at that. Slowly but surely, you make all of those layers more porous,
Mm.
more fluid, and eventually you, the real you, gets swelled up like crazy. And those layers will always be there. That's the human condition. That's why I recognize them as swagger blockers, human condition. But they start to kind of compress, and you can really start to move in and out of them pretty painlessly. You want to have them there because they are a good checks and balance system. Otherwise, you're a narcissist or an a-hole. We don't want to do that.
Or then you're the old swagger, right?
Yeah, you don't want to do that.
Then you're the yeah.
No.
Uh-huh.
Good. A little tiny bit of fear, not bad. A little tiny bit of insecurity, not bad, because you want to check yourself. Ambition, a little bit of, oh, I'm getting, oh, where do I, okay, persona, a little bit. You need to know how to dial up and dial down, not to change ever, but, raise the intensity or lower the intensity a little bit. It's all very important. And that's why that I've also identified the swagger drivers,
Mhm.
because you got to know what's going to bring it out into the world. What are those missiles, those arrows that you're going to use to penetrate through those blockers? So your three swagger drivers are truth, intention, and self-belief. Because we are nothing without our truth. How will people know who we are unless we speak and act our truth, right?
And I think that's one of the things that is sometimes challenging today because we sort of absorb the truth that what we think is supposed to be the truth around us, and it's what I call listening to the whispers. It's when something's feeling like in conflict, but you can't put your finger on it. I think that's probably a
Yeah.
truth. That's a signal for truth. Like, is that my truth? Is
Yeah.
that really what I
Dissonance.
believe? Yeah, the
Yeah, when you
dissonance.
experience it.
Yeah.
And we know what our truth is. We know when we disagree, and we know when we're kind of fudging it a little bit to make other people happy, or we're not really saying anything, or we're kind of agreeing even though we want to disagree and go, "Oh, you're an idiot." Like we know when that's happening. But the thing about truth is that you can't just run around with your hair on fire screaming, "I must speak my truth," and expect everybody to be for it. It doesn't. If only it worked that way. Well, I'm glad it doesn't work that way, because there'd be a lot of people running around with no pants on, screaming with their hair on fire, and that's not good for anybody.
No pants and hair on
Yeah, and
fire.
here,
That, yeah, is a
yeah.
bad look. Yeah.
So the thing about truth is that you got to get smart about speaking your truth. It's not about being just unfiltered or uncensored. It's about making sure that you have clarity on what your message is, but positioning it in such a way that it's good for the collective. It's good for the other. Your truth doesn't have to just be good for you. It's not about that. And if it is, you might want to think about who's going to have time for it. But for example, let's say, we were talking about this earlier. If you're in a role and something is not working for you, you have conflict with your boss, you're not utilized the way that you wish you were, you feel like you're feeling under recognized or whatever it is. And instead of storming into your boss's office and saying, "Hey, I'm not happy and this is not working for me, and you should have given me a raise, and you should have recognized, you promoted me," um, you go in and you go, "So here's the thing. I'm feeling like I have so much more to offer. And I feel like I could be contributing so much more to the success of the team, which is good for both of us. Like, I want to do that. I want to be able to show up as my full self. So I thought I would sit down with you and maybe share some of the things that I felt were holding me back. And maybe you can help me with that, because I know that that's what you want for the team too. Are you open to that? Well, who's going to say no to that?
Right, right.
Who's going to say no to that? They'll go, "Oh, first of all, you're not on the attack. You're saying, let's collaborate on this. You're positioning it as something you want to do, not something they have to do." And all of a sudden you have their ear, you know? And then you talk freely and you listen to what they have to say and you make it easy for them to hear your truth. So you got to consider with your truth when you say it. Timing is everything, you know. Maybe
Yeah.
not right in this middle of a meeting with 12 people listening. Maybe that's not the best time. Just saying. You got to think about where. Yeah, maybe not in front of this person or with that person or whatever. You got to think about to who is going to hear it best and who is going to be able to take the best action on it. And the other part is the why. That's the other swagger driver is intention. Why are you saying it? And if you're saying it just to make yourself bigger and somebody else smaller, or to take somebody else's, son away from them, or to, because you're angry and you want to lash out and you want to get back at someone, or all of those things, it ain't gonna fly.
Yeah, yeah.
Not gonna
And
go
that
well for you.
and that's such hard work sometimes, like, get to what is the intention here, and also what is someone else's intention, to assume positive intent, to assume that,
Yeah.
okay, so if something ticks me off, is was someone doing it for the bigger good? Am I,
Yeah.
what I'm doing it, you call it the collective, is there a bigger reason, a reason beyond me for this
Yeah.
truth, for that
And hey,
intention?
you
Yeah.
know what? If you are unclear about someone's intention, go ask them.
Right.
But ask them without any attack to say, hey, so that was a big move that you made in that situation. These are like a lot of changes. Can you help me to understand what the bigger vision is, what the intention is? Because I want to be able to get on board and I'm struggling a little bit. So help me to understand what the intention of so I can
Help me
see.
understand my
Yeah,
magic words, right?
all of that kind of stuff. And then you go, oh, okay, whatever. And it's the same thing that if somebody comes for you, they come for you and they're accusing you of something or trying to get you to pick up baggage off the baggage carousel that is not yours, which people always do to each other, which we'd never do in the airport, but we do in life all the time. Um, you can stand your ground and say, my intention was explain your intention and don't apologize. Don't apologize. That is a power play. You do not need to apologize for your intention. I'm so sorry. It was not my intention to hurt you. You go. My intention was to help you see something that I thought would be a benefit for you. If my intention didn't land, then I want to make it clear as to what I was trying to do. Not I'm sorry
Hmm.
because you didn't
Hmm.
do anything wrong.
Right. Right. Yeah.
You know?
I think we can be sorry that something unintended had an impact, but it's
Yeah,
like
but
you
no, but you
can't,
can't.
you can't, yeah, can't apologize for the right intention.
Even then, why should I be sorry that something unintended happened?
Well,
I didn't make it
I
happen.
can't control you. Right.
I can't control you. And
Uh-huh.
also, everybody's level of tolerance. I hate that word. I hate the word tolerance because it implies there's something to tolerate, Ugh.
Mm.
But tolerance or everyone's threshold for whatever their stuff is different. Whose level am I supposed to work to exactly? Like, am I supposed to go lowest common denominator? So I stand for nothing. I count for nothing. And now I'm apologizing left, right, and center for everybody else's crap. Oh, no, no, no. It's like you own your level. Like, for example, I swear, I'm a swearer. And I understand that there are places and situations where I shouldn't be swearing and I check first and I do all of that stuff. But if someone, it ends up deeply offended by the fact that I've used a curse word in my passion and excitement to express how amazing something was or whatever it is, and they are deeply offended, whoa, that's so on them. But
Hmm.
their ears are not going to melt off. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? Like,
Hmm.
okay, slow your roll. That's judgment, and they're trying to impose something upon me and trying to control who I am. I'm not going to have it. I'm not going to have it.
Right.
The same way as I won't do that to anybody else.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
And
won't. You know?
and all of that, I think, is those are things that you've defined for you and for your truth,
Mhm.
and it's clearly and uniquely you. So I'm curious, as we wrap up, because because I we can talk about this forever,
For
but
hours.
what's the one small thing that somebody watching this who recognizes that they need to unleash their swagger? What's the one small thing someone can do first?
You got to want it. That is the first step because it is a journey. And so what I tell people is think back to when you were younger, before the world kicked the crap out of you, when you were filled with possibilities and excitement and this sense that anything was possible. I mean, you ask any kid, they'll tell you they're awesome and beautiful and smart and amazing and powerful and they can do anything. And then life has a way of kicking the crap out of you and taking notches out of your psyche and out of your swagger. And it happens, it's like boiling a frog, over time, slowly and inexorably. You get to the point one day where you wake up and you go, who am I? How did I get like this? What happened to me? When I that's the place that breaks my heart when people feel that way. So the first thing to do is to remember that you are still that person. That person who you were way back then when everything was possible, it still is. It's just that you need to believe it again. You need to reconnect with it again. And you need to worry less about what other people want and need and more about what you want and need, because you will end up being more powerful for the greater good. So you got to want it, and you've got to recognize that you are everything and that it does not come from the outside. Your swagger comes from exactly who you are, uniquely you. Only you can manifest your own swagger. And you got to believe it. That's self belief, baby.
Yeah, self-belief, self-belief. Well, the book is Swagger. Leslie, where can people find out more about you and Swagger, the world of the swaggerliciousness that you're putting out there?
You can find me at leslieem.com. That's LESLIEEHM. You can also check out swaggerthebook.com for all things swaggery. And you can buy it on all the platforms. And all the platforms, just look for like number one or two or three. It's going to last, but for the moment, I get to say that. It's so
Awesome.
exciting. So,
Awesome.
yeah, you can
Yeah.
get it anywhere.
Great. Pick up the book. I always say, the purchase of a book is a vote for the author and all the work and that they're putting out into the world. And so, Leslie, thank you so much for being here today with our folks at Red Cape Revolution. And I'm gonna work on my swagger. I'm gonna keep drilling through those layers and keep trying to put some swagger out into the world. So,
Yes,
thank you
girl.
for
And
what
listen,
you do.
you got to have me back because I want to interview you. I want to interview you one day. We'll do
we
a
will
mic swap.
we
I
will
will.
we will swap it out. And sure there's lots of stories that lots of things in common, but lots of really good stories, and you can watch my swagger grow too, so
Yes,
I
girl. I
appreciate that.
got you.
All right,
High
okay.
five.
High five. Thank you. Thanks everybody for being here. Take care. Bye.